Welcome to the Romance Class YouTube channel. This is part of what will be the complete audio edition of my book Iris After the Incident, narrated by Rachel Coates. Subscribe to our channel to be notified when new chapters go up. If you like this book, head over to romanceclassbooks.com to find more romance by Filipino authors. Content warnings are mentioned in Chapter 1 and are included in the description for this video.
Chapter 3. A few days after the thing with the elevator, I got home to find a piece of paper on my floor, pushed in from under my door. Thank you again for being the sane one. If you want to hang out in a wider space, you know where to find me. Signed, 9J. Was I actually going to do this? I hadn't dated at all in 2 years. Well, a year and a half, because technically Bradley and I didn't break up for some time after the video of us went online. By that final month, we were barely speaking, and we had already packed up and moved to his sister's in Maryland. Moving to the US, where he had family, had always been an option for him, but at the time, we'd only been dating a year, and his future didn't seem like it had to be mine just yet. Earlier into the drama, he had made that his plan A, an escape plan that could include me, except I was a little too complicated. I didn't want to just suddenly marry him, uproot myself, and start over. There's that again. Somewhere else. First of all, it was the internet. And they had that in the US too, duh. The only thing he'd escape would be the looks of crushing disappointment he was getting from the people he knew here. I told him they would forget. I mean, who remembered last month's internet scandal anymore? No one. I told him to hang on, and we'd get through it. That he wasn't even going to get the worst of the hate because he was the guy and people expected him to not just have sex, but have folders of obscene stuff everywhere. If anyone was going to get branded a scarlet letter, what would it be? Ness? It would be me. Then you should want this more than I do, he'd said, during an argument about Maryland. I'm giving you a way out, Iris. I wanted a lot of things. There was a wish list. To go back in time and not have pressed the red button that started the recording, to have the power to keep work laptops from ever crashing, to make an app that automatically deleted a private video as soon as a stranger's eyes looked at it, so many things. Still, not including what seemed like an offer to elope, to save me from shame. Bradley used to like my sense of humor, by the way, but this had gotten to him in a way I didn't expect. Then again, you can't predict how people will react when their most private acts are exposed. So, anyway, no dates in 2 years, because in the beginning I was too sensitive about what they might have known and what they might have wanted. Also, I stopped getting asked out, truth. I turned the piece of paper over and wrote Saturday, then dinner, 7 p.m., then I'll pick you up, yes or no. Writing that down was a breakthrough. The next one would be to actually open my door, walk down the hall, turn the corner toward his side of the tower, and slide the note back to him. Screw it, I said. I signed the note 9M and stepped out into the hall before I could tell myself that this was a bad idea. Because maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was ready for this, to go out with someone, and maybe he would be one of the first guys to look at me like normal. Why the hell not? I might have skipped like a happy little girl during those last few steps. It felt like I was claiming something, which was silly. This was the equivalent of leaving a note inside a locker. It wasn't as brave or as legendary as I was making it out to be. 9J. Hello there. I bent down, slipped the paper underneath the door, and broke into a jog back to my unit. Hey! Holy shit! I froze at the sound of his voice. Hey, he said again, and he sounded closer. Turning around wasn't so hard. I had to. It was a proper thing to do after sliding a note under someone's apartment door. I turned around and saw him again. Dark hair, blue eyes, every part of his face nicely proportioned. Dark bangs hung down his forehead, something that wasn't part of his look last time, and it made him seem younger, like a naughty boy. I'd forgotten how I was into that. Probably contributed to the mess that I was getting myself out of. This wasn't so easy. being just a girl again. I cleared my throat. Hello, I said, all formal. Yeah, I replied. He was holding the piece of paper. He was also wearing baggy pajama pants, and he wasn't wearing a shirt, of course. It was almost midnight, and normal people were sleeping at this hour. 9J was probably about to go to bed. He probably didn't like wearing shirts in bed. Oh, crap. Yes, he said. Yeah? Damn. 9J took care of himself. I mean, I suspected that because even with clothes on, he looked firm, nicely shaped. Like he'd be the type to use the open field in the NV Park complex to kick balls and stuff, or use the roof deck patio to do sit ups. I mean, yes, lunch on Saturday. Where do you want to go? Oh, well, at first it was difficult not to gawk at his eyes, and then I had to avoid staring at his bare chest, but the question threw me yet again. My instinct was to think of one of the smaller restaurants and nearby, stay within the neighborhood. Didn't want to go out in public. I'll cook, I said. But let's eat poolside. Here, Tower 3. Oh, he said, and he looked relieved. Interesting. I didn't think of that. Yes, poolside would be awesome. And you cook? Great, let's do that. Great, I said. Please, go back inside. I'm sorry. It's late. Not a problem. His smile was shy, almost surprising on that face, which is on that head and on that body. I guess I'll see you on Saturday, 9M. Good night, I told him. 9J. I turned and started back toward my side of the tower, but I didn't hear the sound of his door clicking shut. We're really doing this? He called out. You're not going to tell me your name? I was about to turn the corner and was relieved that I had a wall I could hide behind. I wasn't sure how to deal with this, which face to put on, because I had a face for the people who only pretended not to know. And it would probably make me appear unkind. Pause. Step back. Turn around. I smiled at him. You haven't told me yours. Then it was like he did a version of the exact thing I did. He too seemed to take a second to decide what to do, like he was bracing himself for a jump. He smiled at me. Fair enough. Good night, and see you on Saturday, 9M. New friendships were hard to come by as well after the incident, although Matilda from the 14th floor was the notable exception. I moved into NV Park about a year and a half ago. Before that, I was still living at home with my parents and brother. The building's swimming pool was now my go-to fitness option. I became aware of when it was used the least, so when my avoiding people phase was at its height and I didn't want to use the gym or even run around the complex, I used the pool. Saturdays, noon, and right after was the best time for me to use it. A little earlier in the morning and there would be a lot of kids there. Later in the afternoon, and the older residents, at least the non-toddler types, were hanging out and using the free Wi-Fi. Noon was when the sun was at its most unbearable, and because of how the pool area was designed, people avoided being there at that time. So that was my time. Me time. I became the girl who used the pool at noon, and even when people showed up, they kept to themselves. When I first moved here, I worried about how sociable people would be. If they expected me to smile and be friendly, I did smile, and I was friendly when I had to be, but so far, no one forced me to be friends with them. There's comfort in being anonymous. Just another person in the crowd, Janine had said, when I told her that I felt more comfortable now living among strangers in a small apartment than with my actual family in a roomy house. At home, you have space, but only physical. Everyone else is in your head, your business, your history. The new normal involved more strangers, that was true. It didn't involve the gym anymore, though, because I didn't enjoy doing that anyway, so I let that go. Unfortunately, I also had to let go of the friends I thought I had. Maybe it was my fault. I only had a few, a core group of friends I'd been close to since we were pre-teens. They were both already married, already mothers, and they were mortified when the thing happened to me. Not for me, but mortified. Period. Matilda began using the pool around the same time as my me time, several months after I'd moved to NB Park. I noticed her right away because she was there at the same time every day all of a sudden. On the third consecutive day of no longer doing my swim alone, she'd spoken up. "Sorry," she'd said. "You're Iris Len Larioka, right?" "Yeah," I'd replied, grabbing my towel. She sounded and acted like she would be my age, but she looked a little older. Not because she looked old, but there was something almost too glamorous and knowing about her. "Do I know you from somewhere?" "I used to live here, but you probably moved in while I was away. I'm back now. I'm Matilda Ruiz." "Hello," I'd said, not sure what she was talking about. She was wearing a shiny gold bikini and she looked beautiful and confident. Was she a celebrity? Was I supposed to know who she was? "I don't want to freak you out, but I want to tell you this because it matters to me. I admire you. I know what happened, and I admire how you've gone on with your life after." "Oh, thank you," I'd said. Not that she would know anything about my life, but I was obviously alive and healthy and swimming in the pool in front of her. "That means a lot." I wasn't ready for a new friend at the time, so I excused myself and left. I saw her in the building every now and then, but she kept a polite distance and didn't speak to me again except to say hi. On Saturday, the day of my first date in what seemed like forever, she was at the pool again while I did my laps. I was so relieved all of a sudden. Maybe I needed to talk to someone? Just tell a friend that, oh my god, I'm going on a date with this really cute guy? Was that a legitimate reason to break the code of neighborly conduct we'd set? I swam toward Matilda. She was wearing a shiny green bikini, very mermaid-like. I waved to her. "Hi," I said. Matilda nodded and sort of wiggled her hips, making herself comfortable on the chair. "Hey, Iris. Hi." God, I should have prepared a script. I wasn't used to making friends anymore. She frowned. "Anything wrong? Is there anyone in the building giving you shit? Someone bothering you?" I laughed. No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hi. So now I did. Twice. Oh, I'm so bad at this. Why? What are you going to do about it? If someone were bothering you? Well, I'd give them a piece of my mind. Oh, thanks. But so far, no one. Good. Do you avoid the internet now? What? After what happened to you? That first time, Matilda had been refreshingly direct, too, but still polite. This was someone I needed in my life, perhaps. I'd only ever talked about this with my therapist, but I actually didn't avoid the internet. I knew when to look away, sure, but I kept tabs on the activity that the video had online. I had Google alerts for my name. It took a lot of discipline for me to stop looking at it, but they were all still there. No, I said. Why? Interesting, she said. I'm serious. If anyone gives you a dirty look and you don't feel safe living here anymore, you tell me, okay? How could I say no to that? Sure. If you can figure out some search words based on the short conversation we've had and what I've told you, then great. You'll know that I have my own drama, and I mean what I said. I'd bitch slap anyone who gives you a hard time. You've been living here more than a year now, right? So, how do you like it so far? Envy Park? It's cool. I like the buildings, and no one has bothered me about that thing. Are you seeing anyone? She headed straight for her targets, didn't she? I didn't even have to steer her in the direction I needed her to. Maybe. Oh, God. I may have started to talk to you right now because I wanted to tell someone how nervous I am about it. That's great, Matilda said, nodding her approval. That's awesome. Don't be nervous. It's not the same guy in the video with you? Oh, it's not. Moving on is the best thing. Does he live in Envy Park? It's okay if you don't tell me, but I know all kinds of shit about residents here. You might want it. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Honey, Matilda said, stretching and smiling, I've been waiting for you to be friendly about anything. I'll be as useful or as useless to you as you like. He's the guy in 9J, I said. That's all I'll say for now. Oh, Tower 3. Yeah. Is that good or bad? No, you know what? Don't say anything. 9J was off the grid for a reason, and I needed to respect that. I needed to be the person I wished other people were about my own privacy. Matilda had a pair of sunglasses resting on her flat belly, and she toyed with it for a bit. Fine, no dirt. But do you want us to be friends now? Of course. I didn't mean to be. Oh, no worries, Iris. I have a Saturday afternoon snack date with some friends. Do you want to join us later? I can't today, I'm sorry. Next week? A date? And friends all of a sudden? Okay, I said, trying to hide how overwhelmed I felt, because I shouldn't have been. New normal, ready for this. I need new friends. Are they like you? Matilda laughed. Oh, no. And yes. I'll let you find out for yourself when you meet them. We usually pick a restaurant across the street. We'll just let you know when we've decided. Sure, great. I like the places over there. I enjoy living here. I know. It's why I came back as soon as I could. I wanted to claim this back. It was the kind of thing someone said when they wanted you to ask them about it, and I was going to, but my phone began to ring. Sorry, I said, wading to the other side of the shallow end to pick up my phone from its spot on top of my small folded pile of clothes and a towel. It was my brother. Shit. Liam, I said, even though the number that flashed was the home landline. You should come on Sunday. True enough, it was him. It wouldn't have been anyone else. Liam's voice reminded me of playtime ending. He was just a year older than me, but he was always first back inside from the backyard. Come on, Iris, was always the first thing I heard, right before the house swallowed me up. I don't think so. You remember what day it is, right? It's Saturday. You can do better than that. I sighed. It's your birthday. Jackpot. Technically, it was your birthday 2 days ago. Right. And I'm not going to mention how annoying it is that you didn't show up to my wine bar soiree, because I didn't particularly like his wine bar friends. You're very good at not mentioning stuff. I'm very talented. Can't you come over here and I'll take you out to dinner? There are a gazillion restaurants here you haven't tried. It's my birthday, and I get to tell you where to go, little flower. That's not how it works. Never call me that again. Come to the house at 1. No. Come at 2. No. Fine. Come at 3. Come in through the back door, and it'll be just you and me. In the backyard. Just us. Just us? Yes. Only the misfits. Oh. But he really wasn't that. Liam may have gotten through most of his adult life facing a different kind of struggle from mine, but I wouldn't have labeled him a misfit. He happened to be successful, grounded, stubbornly affectionate. You're not a misfit. The token gay in this family gets to call himself whatever he wants. Just us? I asked, relenting. Just us and a caramel crunch cake. Maybe. I didn't say yes. I hadn't been back home for Sunday lunch in a long time, but a Liam birthday Sunday lunch was the same kind of nerve-wracking experience, times 20, especially after the incident. Despite my waffling, he reacted as if I'd said yes. Happy birthday to me, Liam practically cooed. I love you.
That was Chapter 3 of Iris After the Incident, narrated by Rachel Coates. Text and production copyright by Mina Viesguerra. Iris lives in a condo building called Envy Park. The building and its residents, including Matilda Ruiz, were established in an earlier book in my Chic Manila series called Welcome to Envy Park. Link in the description.